Hi there, and welcome back to The Disconnected. My name is Ryan, and tonight I'm going to dive into the 4K release of Django from Arrow Video. This is one that's been out for a few months finally after multiple failed attempts, and I just want to share my overall thoughts. I'd like to share why this is one of Arrow's more important releases in my opinion. Let's get into it. So the first thing about this release is that it does come in one of Arrow's super fancy, passing the knock test hard cardboard sleeves. These are really great boxes. They are nice. They do not damage as easily, although I do have a little bit of a corner bump on that one. Doesn't bother me, no big deal. This is great for packages like this one. And then in many of their limited releases just like that, they do come with a poster. This one, in my opinion, is one of their better posters. They have the original artwork on here. That is amazing. And a variant on the backside. Gotta love that. Another part before we get into the movie that makes this a super great release is that it comes with this book. Now this book is an actual book. This is not short. This is something that has, let me just share a full page here of information here. It is a smaller book, obviously, than a normal book, but the print there is tiny, and Arrow fits so much information in here that it is just astounding what they're able to convey in only, this has like 60 pages, 62 pages, something like that. Not even 60 pages. So there is some art in here. So not every page is stuck full of information, but this book goes super deep into all of the different iterations of Django movies that were made after Django itself. They go into spaghetti westerns, they go into some of the information on the director, Corbucci, and it is just, this is basically like a textbook on spaghetti westerns and Django as a whole. This release also comes with the second movie, Texas Adios. We're going to get into that movie in just a moment, but to have all of this in one package for a pretty acceptable price, in my opinion. I believe when this came out, the MSRP was like 50, and most places were selling it for like 40, 45. MSRP was probably closer to 60, but it's a great price for everything that you get with this in the limited edition. Okay, so the movie itself, we have Django. This is the highlight of this double feature, obviously. The film Django stars Franco Nero, directed by Sergio Corbucci, and Franco Nero is just amazing in this movie. There he is with the machine gun there in the front. The movie Django is, I believe, from 1966, and the big thing here is that, as you can see, this is released in 4K, and I am a big believer in 4K. I've got quite a lot of releases in 4K, both mainstream, boutique releases. I've got all of the Blue Underground 4Ks that have been released. I love them all. They look great. Most of them are from the 70s and 80s. There are very few that are from the 60s or before. It's a Wonderful Life is an older one that I have, but most of them are from the 70s or 80s, and they've been re-scanned from the 4K scan of the original negative, and most times, but something like 1966, it's pretty rare to get a great scan of that original negative. So the big thing here, the 4K is a massive improvement over any of the previous iterations of this movie. The Blu-ray looks good, the 4K looks, in a word, astounding. So this is, in my opinion, Arrow's best 4K release. They show details on this set of Django that are unbelievable to be able to make out. What are we at now? 55 years later, after this was filmed in Italy. 55 years shows super gracefully, because you can see like individual pebbles in the mud, when most times that people have seen this before were in, you know, shitty TV cuts that were cut down further than the actual censorship, but cut down so it can fit on your TV, and it was old, you know, CRT TVs that you were watching these on, and it was fuzzy. And this movie, it shines in 4K, and it's really hard to overstate that with this movie, because it looks just absolutely incredible. The detail is beyond belief. The color in this is pretty muted, but that's primarily because of the color palette from when they were filming it. They do bring out the HDR on this, and it does look good. However, there's not a whole lot of color. If you've not seen this movie starts off with a montage set to one of the most badass theme songs of all time, with Franco Nero dragging a coffin behind him, and he ends up at a saloon, and you don't find out what is in that coffin until a good 20-25 minutes into the film, if not a little longer. Don't have the actual timestamp on me, but this movie goes for it, and Corbucci really sets off to create this astounding character. And Franco Nero was only like 25 when he filmed this, I think, maybe even a little younger, somewhere around there at least. And he is still alive and well today. They have an interview on here with him that goes so deep. He's got stories of when they were filming this that he still remembers like it was yesterday, and that was 55 years ago. This release, to say the least, is amazing. I don't understand how more people have not just reviewed this movie, but are just not talking about this as one of the best releases from Arrow ever. It is that good. I understand that there's been a lot of fanfare behind this one because they tried to release it twice before, and Blue Underground blocked the release due to some legal issues, and it's finally here and all that. But oh man, does it look amazing in 4K. I would say if you can still get the limited edition, to go for it. And the only downside is it does come with that second movie, but it's just a bonus movie at this point. That second movie, let's talk about that. That second one is Texas Adios. Really, the only reason it's bundled with this is because it also stars Franco Nero. I believe it was filmed in the same year, if not maybe the year after that. Completely different director. He is not playing Django. It is a vastly different storyline. He is still pretty intimidating, though a little more of a pretty boy compared to what he played in Django. But don't expect like a sequel. Don't expect any sort of continuation. It's nothing like that. But this release is worth it for that book, for the hard box, for the poster, and all of that, for Franco Nero's stories that he's still able to tell. But other than all of that, this release is worth it just for the 4K clarity of Django. This movie looks incredible. The detail that's brought out in this is mind-blowing, to say the least, compared to what you used to see if you've ever seen this previously. And that's all I've got at the moment on Django. So hopefully you are able to pick this up and take a look at it. Let me know what you think. Give a like below. Subscribe if you haven't. I'm going to be starting a weekly live news show where I go over announcements and upcoming releases every Thursday once I get to 250 subscribers. So go ahead and subscribe below. And other than that, all I have to say, from one collector to all of you, have a good night. And share why this